On this episode of On Wisconsin Baby, we're going to take a look at last week's victory over Illinois State and talk about this week's victory coming up over Washington State. Stay with us.
That motion W, that jump around. Don't care who's coming into that town. Results gonna be the same. My Badgers gonna win that game. And anybody tell you anything different, crazy. Look, you got this on Wisconsin, baby.
All right. Hey, I'm Randy Lee. I'm your host here on Wisconsin Baby. And I hope you enjoyed that introduction. This is the first episode of On Wisconsin Baby. And I hope we have a lot of fun. I love the Badgers, and I'm looking for a chance to share my love of the Wisconsin Badger football program with fellow Badger fans all over this world. And I thought, what better way to do it than a podcast about Wisconsin football, especially in this year, 2022, that I am confident is going to be possibly the best year ever. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I think that every single year, and I really do. But this year, man, it looks good, doesn't it? It looks really good, and I'm excited. I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm here, just a little bit. I live in Alabama, of all places, and I've been a Wisconsin Badger fan since I was a little itty-bitty boy of about 6 years old in Ohio, where I grew up. And every year in between, which is a whole bunch now, I have just been all out Wisconsin Badger fan. I remember back when Rufus Roadrunner Ferguson would do his little dance in the end zone. I'd see a little tiny clip on the news, even though we had a losing season going, because he'd scored a couple touchdowns. He'd do that little dance. I remember when Barry came and took over the Badger program, and I was at the first Rose Bowl with my little brother Matt, and we won that game. Oh, I couldn't talk for days because I'd scream so much. And over the years, I've had a lot of chances to get up to Camp Randall, and it's been so much fun. And I look forward to getting up there, hopefully this year again. And that's just a big part of my life. And I'm sure I'll talk about it more. So let's get right into it. This week, I want to do a preview of the Big Ten games coming up. And we're also going to talk about last week's game against Illinois State. And we're talking about this week's game versus Washington State. Now, I am an old football coach, coached high school football in Tennessee with some success. And I am an old player from a long time ago, back when guys like me played offensive guard. Now they just fill up this whole screen. But I love the game of football. I know a little bit about it, and I know a little bit about the Badgers. I'm not going to pose myself as an expert. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons I actually delayed doing a podcast is because I listened to a bunch of Badger podcasts, and I'm always aware that some of these guys really know all the details about the team. And there are some great sports writers are involved in podcasts. I listen. I subscribe to The Athletic, and Jesse from The Athletic does a fantastic job of covering the program of Wisconsin all year long. And I felt a little intimidated because I knew I didn't know all the details, but I thought, hell with it, man. Let's just bust out a podcast, talk about the Badgers, and I invite you guys to maybe join me on the mic at some point, or share your observations and your comments and your commentary and your questions or whatever. You can send them to me at flippingquestions@gmail.com, flippingquestions@gmail.com. I'm a podcaster who does another podcast about the car business called Flipping Genius. But you can send these questions there too. I don't want to set up a separate email address just for that. And I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Just let me know you're talking about On Wisconsin Baby, and we'll go from there. Hey, let's talk about the game last week with Illinois State. You know, Illinois State looked pretty tough, and of course they had Zach Anixted, I think is his name, the quarterback from Minnesota, dreaded, horrid, hated Minnesota. That's my my impression of him. And he's got a pretty good arm, and he played a decent game and put the fear of God into us for at least one quarter before we saw that thunderous comeback, which was so great as they are moving the ball down the field, and to see our boy John Torchio return it 100 yards. If you didn't see the game, I apologize if I'm doing a spoiler, but it's been a week, so I'm sure you've seen it by now. A 100-yard touchdown return that changed that course of that game, whereas Illinois State was on our doorstep. Torchio grabbed that ball right at the goal line and ran it all the way back for a touchdown. It was brilliant. Set a new Badger record. The old record was 99 yards by Joe Ferguson, of course, Barry Alvarez's grandson. It's required that we say that every time we say one of the Ferguson boys' names. And Joe had run 99 yards back, if you remember, in 2017, and that was against Utah State, which was, who would guess that that's going to get broken? But sure enough, it got broken. And another record that got broken. If you recall back when James White ran a 93-yard touchdown against Indiana in 2013, another record that thought you might think was unbreakable. Well, of course, fantastic Braylon Allen. He is amazing, isn't he? 96-yard run from scrimmage for a touchdown to set another Badger record, and that made it 14-0. And from that point on, it was all Badgers. We even gained the time of possession battle back, which they were actually winning, which that rarely happens against Wisconsin. But we only had 3 plays, I think, in the first quarter. Amazing. They played some decent defense too. They had some good ball players at Illinois State. I question if they're not the best team in the state of Illinois. I'm sure Brett Bielema would probably argue with me about that. But Badgers went on to win 38-0. Defense played fantastic, and another shutout for Jimmy Leonard's guys. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's about 25% of the games that Coach Leonard has coached as defensive coordinator have turned out that our opponent has scored 0 touchdowns offensively. 0 times into the end zone, 25% of the time that Jimmy Leonard's been the defensive coordinator. That is astounding. I pray all the time that Jimmy will stay at Wisconsin and keep coaching our defense until it's time to take over as the head coach. Because, man, we don't want that guy on the other side of the field, I'll tell you that. And what a fantastic job he's done in every aspect for Wisconsin. I'm so thankful for Jim Leonard. What an amazing statistic that is. And the Badgers just went on to play a good, solid game offensively and defensively. One of the other bright spots was Graham Mertz, who had a really nice game, maybe the second best game that he has had in a Badger uniform since his very first one way back when he played Illinois. Maybe Graham's got something about Illinois, huh? But that was a lot of fun, and we went 1-0, and that takes us to game number 2. Everybody expected us to go 1-0. We just barely beat the point spread, and actually went from number 18 in the country to number 19 in the country, winning 38-0. But go figure. It means very little at this point, correct? And we'll worry about the next step when the next step comes. And the next step is this week, today at 2:30 Central Time. We play Washington State at Camp Randall. We're going to talk about them in just a minute, but first I want to talk about the other Big Ten games this week. And man, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten. How do you get so many teams in the Big Ten? But anyway, 14 games total this week, and I'm just going to go down the list. And heck, everybody's got an opinion. I'm going to share mine with you and let you know what I think is going to happen in each game to give you a chance to see how big a dummy I am. Or who knows? Maybe I have them all right. Bet all my bets and make lots of money. I'm not betting any money, by the way, folks. I'm going to start off with the big kingfish in the house, Ohio State. I am so looking forward to us taking them out in a couple of weeks, but we'll talk about that when it gets here. One thing I'm not going to do, folks, I'm not going to predict the winner of the Wisconsin game, because anybody that knows me knows what I think every single week. But I am going to give you a breakdown of what I think will happen in these other games. Let's start off with Ohio State entertaining Arkansas State. Arkansas State does come in 1-0. Of course, the Buckeyes are 1-0 too, and the Buckeyes are favored by 44.5 points, and the over is 68.5 points. It's supposed to be a rainy day almost every place in the country. It's going to be 77 degrees there in Columbus, and I predict, obviously, an Ohio State win. I think they'll win 65-6. They will cover, and it will be over, and I think that's probably pretty safe bet. You never know, though. You never know, because it is not guaranteed, but that's the way I would go. The other game also includes an Ohio team, but it's the University of Ohio playing at Penn State. It's all supposed to be rainy and about 74 degrees, and the Nittany Lions are favored by 27, and the over is 54. I do not think they'll go over here, and I do not think that the Nittany Lions will cover. I'm predicting a 28-17 victory for Penn State. So Ohio with the points there, but they won't walk away with a win. Also, those first two games are on BTN and ABC at 11 o'clock. Also on BTN at 11 o'clock is Western Illinois playing at Minnesota. The old row the boat is going to try to run up the score, and it'll be 70 degrees and rainy. And I'm sure the Gophers have a decent team this year. They're favored by 38.5 points, and the over's 55. I believe that they'll get over, and I think the Gophers will win 49-7. They will cover the spread. I don't want to talk about the Gophers and winning very often or very much, so I'm going to skip right forward to Duke is visiting Northwestern, and that's also at 11 on FS1. And this could be a decent game. Northwestern's favored by 10 against Duke, and I think Duke's got a decent team. Both teams are fairly comparable, good academics, interesting matchup, and I think Fitz will have his guys ready enough, but I don't think they'll cover. I think that they're going to win 31-28, and with the spread 10 points. Northwestern actually favored by 10 points. I don't think they'll cover it, but they will be over 57. On the Stadium channel, I've never heard of that one. At 2:30, Maryland is visiting Charlotte, which is a mismatch. Charlotte is going. They've lost their two top quarterbacks. Maryland's got a pretty decent team this year. They're favored by 26.5 points. The over/under is 65.5, and I do not think they'll hit that over, but I think Maryland will cover. They'll win 38-6 because I don't think Charlotte's got enough in the tank to put any points on the board. I have been wrong before, but maybe not this time. It's going to be 73 and rainy there. Rainy almost everywhere. 82 degrees at Michigan State. And in East Lansing, Michigan State is entertaining Akron at 3 o'clock. It's also on BTN. And Michigan State is favored by 34.5, and the over is 56 points, which I think they'll hit right on the button because I believe Michigan State's going to win that one 42-14. I'm going to do all these games, and if you keep records, let me know. I'll keep records, let you know next week what I got. I'm honest. I'll definitely let you know if I got them all right, all wrong, or what my score was. It'll be interesting. The next game is also at 3 o'clock on BTN. It's Indiana State playing against Purdue. Purdue, of course, had that heartbreaker last week. They are favored by 37 points. It's supposed to be 81 degrees and a little bit rainy at Purdue, and it is over is 49.5. I believe they will cover that over, but they will not cover the spread. I'm looking for Purdue 55, Indiana State 21. So the Boilermakers will walk away with a victory, but they won't quite cover. Good offense, but I think their defense will give up a little bit too much there. Also on BTN at 3 o'clock, a school called Wagner, who has a 21-game losing streak, and of course is 0-1, is visiting Rutgers, who's 1-0 and started last year 3-0, and I think they'll be off to a good start this year too. They will there is no point spread laid out here. I predict Rutgers will not blow them away. They'll win 31-17. Rutgers is Rutgers, and it's going to be 84 degrees and partly sunny in New Jersey. So might be a nice day to watch a game on BTN. See a little sunshine. That's a rarity. Probable rain and 81 degrees at Illinois as Illini entertain Virginia, and this may be the closest matchup in the Big Ten this week. It is one of the close ones. Illinois is favored by 4 points over Virginia, and I am calling for an upset. Upset. I believe Virginia is going to take. I think Virginia is going to take Illinois out, 24-21. Coach Bielema, I'm sorry, but I believe you're going down. Illinois is 1-1 at this point, and I believe that they'll be 1-2 after that. By the way, Michigan State is ranked number 14. I forgot to mention that. So I would go for the under, which is 57.5, because I think they're going to score a total of 45 points in this one, 24-21 in favor of Virginia. It's only a 3-point difference between Iowa and Iowa State, but it's easy to see why, because last week Iowa's defense outscored their offense 4-3. Crazy game, crazy. Lots of defense last week. I believe there just wasn't any offense on the Iowa side. They've got to play a little bit better this week, but I don't think a lot. I do not, but I do think they'll win. They're favored by 3. They'll win by 4, 13-9. I'm calling for a Iowa victory. They do cover, but it's under the 40 points that they're calling for the over/under. It's supposed to be 71 and rainy in Iowa, by the way. So I'd go with Iowa over Iowa State at home, 13-9. Obviously, again, they get in the end zone this time, but only once. That's my prediction. On and on. And that game's at 3:00 also, and I don't have the TV station on that one. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have the TV station on that one. Messed up. You'll find it if you want to watch it. At 6:30, you'll be watching the Badgers then anyway. At 6:30 on FS1, Georgia Southern, I think that's out of the Southern League. They'll be playing at Nebraska. Nebraska is favored by just 23.5. I'm surprised they're not favored by more. The over is 62.5. And I am predicting that while Nebraska will win, I do not think they'll cover. I predict a 31-28 victory for Nebraska, and they will be under the 62.5 points, because that's just 59 points that are going to be scored. 31 for Nebraska, 28 to Georgia Southern. A little struggle for the Huskers at home. At 7:00 on BTN, Idaho, who gave Washington State a good struggle last week, is playing at Indiana. Indiana is 1-0 after their victory last week. They'll be playing on the Big Ten Network, BTN, and Indiana is favored 24.5 points, and the over is 52.5. They will hit over, and they will cover. The score is going to be 48-21. Go ahead and write that down. 48-21. Rock solid prediction. Indiana beats Idaho at home. 7:00 tonight on BTN. And the last game I'm going to predict for you this week is the Wolverines of Michigan entertain Hawaii. Now, Michigan's ranked number 4 in the country right now. I'm really surprised that they're so high up. I think it depends on what you look at, but I think they're at number 4 or number 5. They are favored by 52 points against Hawaii. Hawaii is not looking real tough this year, and the point spread is 66.5. I mean, the over is 66.5 points. I predict they do not hit the over. I predict they do not hit that over, because I predict Michigan's going to beat Hawaii 65-0. Whew. And that's going to be a lot of fun if you're a Michigan fan to watch, but not much fun for anybody else. 65-0, and Michigan, number 4 in the country, will probably retain their number 4 ranking, but not with anything but a marathon instead of a sprint. 65-0, and that brings us to this week's game, the Badgers entertaining Washington State. It's an exciting game, and a lot of it a lot of the excitement coming in is coming from one player that transferred from a school called Incarnate Word, which I'm not really very familiar with. But a gentleman's name is Cameron Ward. He'll be wearing number 1, and he's 6'2", 220-pound quarterback. He's a sophomore, and he's from the state of Texas. Last week he threw 3 touchdown passes for 215 yards versus Idaho. He ran 5 times for 18 yards, and he included there was included in that 117-yard scamper. So he's said to have some pretty good feet and can get out and make things happen. So a lot of folks are worried about the Badgers containing him. So we've got to get some good pressure on him and make him make mistakes. And I think Wisconsin can do that, but he's going to give, we will be a challenge. Good player, really good player. Last year, here's why. Last week was okay, but here's why people are so excited. Let me just say this number: 4,698, 4,698 yards passing last year. That's how many yards Cameron Ward threw last year. Now, the competition he played against, or Incarnate Word, they'll play against this year. This week they're playing against Nevada. Other teams on their schedule: Prairie View, Texas State, Southern Illinois, Southeast Louisiana, McNeese State, Nicholls State, Faulkner, Northwest State. Those are some of the schools they play with. So he definitely didn't play at Big Ten level competition last year, and even Idaho was probably a step up against the competition that he played against last year. But still, 384 for 590, 65.1% completions, 47 touchdowns against just 10 interceptions last year. But only 7.9 yards per pass attempt. Now that is a little lower than I thought, but it's pretty exciting stuff for that. He only had 1 touchdown running, and that was I believe a 45-yard scamper last year. So a good quarterback. They got a good solid quarterback that brings came along with a new offense that came from the offensive coordinator from Incarnate Word that came over to Washington State. So they're going to run a form of the air raid offense. They're going to try to air it out a lot, but they're going to try to run the ball too. And we'll talk about how they're going to do that in a minute. But let's talk about our quarterback first. And I am tickled to see Graham Mertz get off to a good start, and he did. He had a really nice game last week, stayed within himself, tucked the ball down and ran when he needed to, didn't throw any bad passes. I don't think he had a bad pass all day long. One flew through somebody's hands. It was a little bit out in danger land, but I think every pass looked pretty solid last week. He only had two incompletions last week. Oh, by the way, Graham is he wears number 5, in case you don't know, and he's 6'3", 216 pounds, out of the state of Kansas, and he's a junior, and he is our man. And I let's get behind him. Let's get behind Graham, and I would love to see him have a great year this year. He was 14 for 16 last week for 219 yards and 1 touchdown. He did what he needed to do, and the other guys did the rest. So 38-0 was a pretty nice win and nice performance for Graham. In 2021, here's his numbers: 169 out of 284 with a 59.5% completion percentage. He had 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We didn't like that. He rushed the ball for 4 touchdowns. He did run it in the end zone. Usually it was not run. It was like push. But he got 4 touchdowns on the ground, total of negative 25 yards on the ground last year rushing. So he's not really known for rushing, but last week I saw him. He didn't come up with a positive number on the rushing side. He did tuck the ball and run and get out of trouble, and I looked forward to seeing him do that some more. So good day last week for Graham Mertz. Let's see him do the same thing this week, and we will all feel better about it. And he's going to be throwing the ball. Let's jump ahead and talk about who these guys throw to. I'm going to go right to Chimere Dike. He's our top receiver right now, but we've got a nice crew of them, and I look forward to hearing these guys develop. I'm not going to go into all the details about them. I've been listening to the podcast. I've been studying up, and we've got a great stable of backs and runners, I mean, and receivers this year. And I think there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff happening. And I don't think we've seen any of it yet. And I think we'll see some changes this week, some exciting stuff coming out of our offense this week. So a few things. We're not going to show it all until we have to, which I think will be in Columbus in a couple of weeks. But this week, I think you'll see a few new wrinkles coming from our new offensive coordinator. But Chimere Dike was the top receiver last week. He had 3 catches for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. Nice game. He's 6'1", 195 pounds, and he is from Wisconsin, and he is a junior. And last year he had a decent year, 19 catches for 272 yards, 14.3 yards per catch, and just 1 touchdown. He ran the ball 3 times for 19 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. Look for that again, too. I'd like to see that. But we've got lots of good folks in the backfield, and we'll talk about one of them in a minute here. But that's our top receiver. But watch this to develop. I don't know that Chimere is going to be the top receiver all year long, because we've got some other folks in there that are going to jump in. And I liked it last week. I'm sorry I don't have those numbers right here. But last week, Graham did spread the ball around pretty well, and he brought a lot of targets in, and that's what we want to see, and that's what I believe we will see, and we're going to see some development of some of these guys. Now, on the other side of the ball, Washington State's got a kid named Donovan Ali, who's 6'3", 212 wide receiver from the state of Texas. Last week, he caught 7 passes for 67 yards, no touchdowns. Last year, he caught 26 for 301 yards, about 11.6 yard per catch, and 1 touchdown. Good solid player out of Texas. They got a lot of guys from Texas there. Interesting, a lot of guys from Texas all over the country. And speaking of that, Washington State's top running back is born in the state of Texas, but you know where he came from, right? Yeah, Nakia Watson has transferred over to Washington State a couple years ago. And Nakia had a good game last week against Idaho. He gained 117 yards in 18 attempts. Nice day. He had no touchdowns, did not get in the end zone. Nakia wears number 25, like somebody we used to know wearing 25, but that was back when he was wearing beautiful red and white. Nakia is 6 feet tall, 223 pounds. He is from Austin, Texas, and he is a junior. And he will probably be the man carrying the rock the most for Washington State. Good ball player. He kind of found himself on the wrong side of things here, or in Madison, so he transferred out, and we wish him well starting next week. And our guy, Braylon Allen, man, what a player he is, and we saw him develop. It was a little slow to develop last week. Braylon, of course, wears number 0. He is 6'2", 235 pounds. He's from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He is a sophomore, and nobody said this yet, I don't think, he's 18 years old. Remember last year, every time you saw him, and he's only 17. He's only 18 right now, but he can play like a full-grown man, no doubt. Last week, he gained that 1 run for 96 yards and a touchdown. I've already talked about it. It was the longest run from scrimmage for Wisconsin, Wisconsin, I mean, that is some serious competition. Oh, I want to make sure you see my red helmet. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit crazy. I'm getting excited, man, because the game is coming. The game is coming. I'm trying to get this out before anything else happens. But Braylon, he is going to be toting that rock today, I'm sure. But we'll also have the other guys jumping in there. I'm not going to go into the whole stable of backs we've got, but we've got some good ones this year, and I'm looking forward to sharing all their numbers coming up. Last week, Braylon carried for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns, including that 96-yard run for a touchdown in 14 attempts. That's over 10 yards per carry, folks, but it's easy to get there when you get 96 yards in 1 carry. Well, it's not easy. You and I couldn't do it, I don't think. I know I couldn't. Last year, as a freshman, as a 17-year-old freshman most of the time, he gained 1,268 yards in 186 attempts, averaging 6.8 yards per attempt, and he didn't even play in all the games. So what an exciting year we've got coming up. I'm excited to see what Braylon could put on the record, and let's just keep him grinding. Don't wear him out, Coach Chris. Don't wear him out. pull them out when you can, because we got to keep them. We got to have them ready. Yeah, he had 12 touchdowns last year, and he also had 8 receptions for 39 yards. So I would also look for that to happen. I'm looking for some passing to our backs this year and spreading that ball around a little bit and spreading that defense out so that Braylon can hit those holes. And man, when he hits a hole, it is exciting. And I am ready for that excitement today. I do, I'm not going to officially predict this, but I do predict a victory for the Wisconsin Badgers today. And if there's ever an episode where I don't do that, call the doctor, because that means there's something wrong with Randy. Hey man, this is exciting stuff. I'm so glad to be able to share my voice and my opinions. It's almost getting close to game time here. I mean, I got to get ready. I got to cut a plate full of cheese and crackers or something and get ready to start watching some football. We don't hit the airways till 2:30, but football comes on. I got to be watching this football Saturday. Even here in Alabama, we like football. It's funny, a podcast in Alabama that doesn't mention the Crimson Tide, but okay, I mentioned them there. But hey, thanks for watching. Come back often. I'm going to try to do at least one of these every week, if not more, and we'll probably cover the past game and the future game, but spend a little bit more time talking about the next game. I had to do them both this week just because I finally convinced myself to get started. If you've got any input, if you just want to tell me I'm a big dummy, or if you want to tell me how handsome I am, or you want to share some ideas on what we can do, or if you want to volunteer to be my co-host or my guest on a future podcast, whatever you want to do, just send me your email to flippingquestions@gmail.com, and I'll look forward to talking to you. Hey, on Wisconsin, baby.